皆様、今日はお集まりいただきましてありがとうございま
Thank
す。
you very much for assembling today. I am Miyajima of the National Art Center Tokyo. Next to me is the Bulgari Heritage Curator Director and also the main curator of this exhibition, Mr. Jislan Okriman. So, Jislan-san, if you could now take over from here.
Konnichiwa. Thank you for everyone. I'm sorry, my Japanese will stop here. I'm, first of all, delighted of all the collaboration we have made. I mean, on this stage with me, we have worked on something which was really a cultural moment and in which we wanted, on the topic of color, to be able to bring to you, to the public, to everyone who wants to know about why we are the master of colors at Bulgari, but also how color in the art world has an impact on us. Let's start with our first chapter, as Miyajima-san was just saying, on the curatorial concept. Since almost 2 years ago, when we met, in fact, it was a large and beautiful discussion on a universal topic which we wanted, and color has been immediately a key element. The concept was to build something that would be explained as how colors can be studied in the world of art, and particularly in the world of jewelry. For that reason, we wanted to create this cultural exhibition with groups of pieces, groups of chapters, I would say, that will explain how color touches everyone. And the exhibition has 3 main chapters. One chapter talking to the brain, which is the one more rational, the science of color. A second chapter talking more to the heart, more emotional, which is the color symbolism, because we perceive color because of symbols, cultures, and who we have been educated from. And the last chapter is talking to the eyes. It's more visual. It's the one that we perceive color because of light. So it's called the power of light. These chapters are grouped in this space because the immense challenge was to use this almost 2,000 square meter space, of which the duo of Sana will explain very rightly how they managed to build the space, so they will do it better than I would do. But we also wanted to have an artistic understanding on that. And the 3 artworks you see, some of them, if you have visited the exhibition, might have been of a certain surprise. Some of them are more playful, some more monumental visuals, are transitions in the exhibition to build properly the idea that color talks about all the arts, not only about jewels.
Yes.
Thank you, Jiswan. And as Jiswan just mentioned, the curation of the exhibition started, and we focused on jewelry, but as was mentioned, we have 2,000 square meters for the space, and the height is 8 meters. And within the art center, it is the biggest space. And so you have these small pieces of jewelry. How can we present them? Sana gave us a lot of assistance in that respect. And I think many of you have already seen the exhibition. And I hope that after hearing from us, you will once again visit the exhibit and see what kind of a special space we have created. So, to be specific, we talked about the 3 chapters and 3 parts, and let us look at them in more detail.
Absolutely. The first chapter is more scientific. I mean, since we were young, we were told that some colors put together are mixed to become another one. You put some yellow and some blue, and we have some green. Okay, this we know. something we usually don't know is that it has been studied scientifically by great scientists since the 19th century. And this has been the structure of color that many artists have used as a base to create art in a large way. In the center, this is a symmetric positioning of colors by Goethe, the German figure. And what he made was really to be positioning the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and explain that in between, when you mix them together, they become another one. So it was one of the first technical explanation of them. What is interesting in that is that we really wanted to start with the primary colors, so the one making them all. And in jewelry, it's fundamental because they are some of the most precious of the gems that we use. Rubies for the red, sapphires for the blue, and we decided to use yellow gold for the yellow, of course, but yellow gold mixed with diamonds. And this is something very Roman, very Italian, very Mediterranean, when the other traditions prefer to have diamonds that are colorless mostly, so white, with a white metal like silver or platinum. In Italy, the choice that Bulgari made was to have something color of the sun. So something that will explain this Italian weather in a way, thanks to the light color of course, yellow gold. So yellow with yellow gold, rubies for red, and sapphires for blue starts the exhibition.
Yes, that's right. That's how the exhibition starts. Once you enter, you will see these three jewelry pieces in the same showcase, and the sketch. Well, there is a kind of a drawer in the showcase, and you will be able to see the sketch so that you can compare the sketch and the items.
The idea was really that the visitor would move naturally from the groups of elements. As you just said, when visitors enter in the first space, they have the group of three. When they enter in the second space, we repeat the group of three, this time with the secondary colors. So we follow the chromatic circle. Every color mixed gives another one. So of course we have the green made with blue and yellow. We have the orange made with red and yellow, and we have the purple with red and blue. To make the green, we have emeralds. To make the orange, we have coral. And to make purple, you have a bit of a mix on the bracelet, but you have use of amethyst. And then they open to groups of pieces of jewelry with these same colors, respecting the order that the chromatic circle explained by science since the 19th century.
Right, so as we have just heard, you have the primary colors, and then you go to the next room, and there is the chromatic circle room, where you see, well, red mixed to become green, and as you see on the circle, how the colors are mixed. And how is that in jewelry used to make each other more conspicuous? And I would like to ask Jislan-san, in Bulgari, your designers, historically, they have consciously incorporated the chromatic circle, or in a sense, it is more empirical by experience, they use their experience. So how was it done by the designers?
It's an excellent question. I think it's unconscious that they did, more experimental. But what is nice to see is that in the initial combinations, they probably did it like by feeling. But as soon as it was done, it became a scientific process. So then it was consciously done to be properly put together and to have the understanding that with the bracelet, for example, on the right-hand side, putting the right color with another one would be selecting colors which do not touch directly each other in their circle or are not totally opposite. If not, it will be too intense and too contrasting in a way. So the choice is on purpose, I would say, never by chance, but not always following a more scientific approach. There was also a feeling kind of approach in the process.
はい、ありがとうございます。はい、じゃあ、
Thank you. And to proceed,
This one was also to talk about the green. Green color is very important in the world of jewelry. Emeralds particularly are with an intense color. And here the idea was to present pieces of the past and pieces of the present. The piece of the past is a necklace with a pendant. The pendant is detachable, can be worn separately. It used to be part of the collection of Elizabeth Taylor. The brooch was an engagement present of Richard Burton to Elizabeth Taylor, while the necklace was a wedding present of Richard to Elizabeth. So it has a beautiful story. But also it has amazing emeralds. I mean, even the diamonds are beautiful, but the emeralds are intense, are bright, powerful. But the idea was also to say that these emeralds of the past are also interesting if you compare them with the one of the present. And you have two examples on the right from a private collection. These pieces from the same collection are interesting because they belong to a collection which is based in Japan. So also it is interesting that the collectors and the interest for the emeralds is not only from America with Liz Taylor, in Italy with some of the pieces, but also here in Japan. And these emeralds here have been selected because they have some of the purest quality. Quality has never been low, always being raised higher, particularly, I mean, I love the necklace, but particularly the bracelet, which has this huge surface of emerald with deep color, very large, which is a specialty of the maison, to select intense, deep, rounded shape to preserve the intensity of the green.
はい、そうです。今ご説明いただいたんですけど。
thank you. And as you've just heard, this jewelry connected to Elizabeth Taylor from the past, and this Japanese collector-owned piece, which is very recent. They're so close together in the exhibition space, and I think some of you may be already been able to see the exhibition. Being able to see them together in this space is never going to happen again, I think. It's a very, very precious opportunity. So I would urge you to go and see it. Also, we just heard about green. The color develops further with the next corner. So over to you.
The other colors that we'll have afterwards is to put together a mix of colors. Since we have studied primary, secondary colors, the idea was to put them together. But putting them together, like by chance, could be a big chaos. So you have to play with harmony, you have to play with the right colors that will go together rightly. Or if you want to do oppositions, you will play by contrasts. So you create some games of opposition which are happy for the eyes, I would say. On the left, it's a large necklace, it's a choker, so close to the neck, which is made with the central stones are rubies for the red, then you have a line of diamonds, then the intense blue is lapis lazuli on yellow gold, which creates very opposite kind of color, but matching well together on a sunny yellow gold surface, I would say. Whether the earrings on the side, that can also be worn as brooches, so the idea of transforming the jewels. These earrings are quite large. They have turquoise for the light blue, and they have the red of the rubies. And the red with the blue together are not immediately going naturally with them. So the positioning of them with lines of diamonds was to create a contrast, a chromatic contrast in between them. So the play is pleasing to the eye, but in the same time attracts the attention.
Thank you. And if I could ask you a question now, what we can see here, blue and red are contrasted. the lapis lazuli blue and the turquoise blue are different types of blue. The texture of the stone is also quite different. With Bulgari's jewelry, you have all these different colored stones combined together. Even though you have rubies with lapis lazuli, rubies with turquoise. How do you decide which combinations to use? Is it done by the designer? Is it done by the creative director? Who actually does that? I think it's one of the questions that we all want to know the answer to.
For the present, we have the answer. It's a teamwork under the lead of our creative director, Lucia Silvestri, based in Rome. The concept is positioning together the gemstones before mounting them. So we do the test. We put them together, we check to see how is the feeling. Lucia has been trained by Mr. Paolo Bulgari, who is the gem expert historically of the Maison, himself trained by his father, Giorgio, who was also a gemstone expert. So it's the same game of positioning, serious professional game of positioning the gemstones, which has been the one done to select the gems. However, the great innovation of Bulgari has been to select the gemstones by color, not first to consider the intrinsic value of the gem, whether they used to be considered precious or semi-precious, as the past said. The importance is really to focus on what is the effect of color, what is the chromatic result of additioning some of the gemstones, which made, at the end, the Bulgari style the one which we have today. Since the late 1950s or the early 1960s, it was made this way.
ありがとうございます。ちょうどその50年代からっていうことで、こちらが
You spoke about the 1950s, and this is 57, so creating jewelry by the color is, I think, very well expressed by these examples. So next.
The chapter 2 is about color symbolism. In the chromatic circle, which we have discovered, seen, and studied together, there is no white and no black. White is considered to be the color making clearer colors. Black is the one making darker colors. But for scientists, they're not considered as colors. But in civilizations, in our cultures, everywhere in the world, black and white are colors. We attach meanings to colors. Whether good or bad meanings, we attach meanings. So that we have a cultural point of view, a symbolic point of view given to colors. That's the reason of chapter 2. So leave about science and go to something different. And we, of course, have selected black, white, and red, which were the first colors used by humanity in art. Think about prehistorical caves, think about Pompeii frescoes as the photo on the left. And of course, one of the most ancient symbols recognized in the world is the snake. And if you know Bulgari, you know serpenti, serpent, snake figures is very important. So we put together a white one, a black one, and also there's a red one at the entrance of chapter 2.
はい、ここがまさに第2章の入り口で。
So we're right at the entrance of chapter 2, and you spoke about the adjustment of the color. On a completely different topic, when I saw the serpenti necklaces, the white snake in Japan is supposed to bring good luck to that house. And you have the cultural background around the world where colors have different meaning and different import depending on the color, the country or the civilization. And Bulgari, I think, continues to respect that. And I think we can also see this more clearly through this chapter. I think I've asked too many questions and I'm running out of time. So now I'm going to speed up a bit to give you some time to explain. Thank you.
Then we go back to green. Green has been considered a secondary color by science, but it's not secondary in art and in cultures. It's one of the most important colors in all the forms of art, particularly in jewelry. And in that room, which is a kind of three-space room, we have three different gemstones, three different green colors. On the left, emeralds, we already have seen it, considered a precious stone by Western gemologists for many, many years. In the middle, peridot, quite unusual, unexpected gemstone, very much adored by the Romans of today, but also the Romans of the past. 2,000 years ago, peridot was considered a precious green color. And we never called it peridot at the time, we called it olivine, because it's the color of olive and olive oil. And if you know Italy, you know olive oil is very important for food, for sure. The right one is jade. Jade has not been considered by Western gemologists as a precious gem. But we're in Japan, I mean, everywhere in Asia, if you say jade is not precious, you would be wrong. And I believe, like you, jade is a precious green one. So it had to be in this space. And this is why we put them together, because culturally we react differently, but all of them are precious version of the green color.
ありがとうございます。で、この緑
Thank you.
のコーナー
And
が
the green corner gives you emerald, peridot, and jade, which can be seen together, which I think is one of the outstanding corners to be able to focus on. Next.
Colors and emotions. We have expressions in different language. I will not ask in Japanese if there's the same question, but maybe. In Italian, for example, we say we're black angry. In French, we say we're red angry. So we're angry with a different color. But if we're sad, we have in English the blues. So it's blue. So every color has different emotion attached to it. Here we went with positive emotions. Heart shape with different colors for love, for affection. The bracelet has many colors and the name is Allegra. Allegra in Italian means joy, happiness, because all these colors bring joy. And the earrings at the top, we love them a lot, I must say. We call them mamma pesce in Italian, which means mother fish. Because if you look, there's a mother and the three babies. These are earrings. They are adorable, they're cute. So we wanted to talk about cuteness, nice, positive vibes with these pieces, which reflects the emotions with these colors.
はい、このコーナーは本
And
当に
this corner
喜んで
is really full of joy.
楽しんでみていただけたらと思います。
And I hope that you will really enjoy yourselves.
次に行きましょう。
So next, we have to hurry now.
Power of light, of course, is about how metals could reflect a different color according to light. Some are gray, some are yellow, some are pink. They could be rose gold, white gold, yellow gold. But also it could be steel, like at the top left, with bronze in the center. It could be silver, like at the bottom left. So the way light comes through, hits, the way that metals are worked, gives a different perspective on how we see color, not only on the gemstones, but also on the metal. And this is the beginning of chapter 3, because metals is the base, the skeleton for every jewel. On it, you have the option or not to add some gemstones.
はい、ありがとうございます。で、そう
Thank you.
今
And as we've already heard,
貴金属を使った
various different kinds of metals have been used, and that is what you can see with the power of
時間
light.
がないとはいえ、一つ聞きたいというかご紹介したいことがあ
But
りまして
there's something I really want to focus on. The founder of Bvlgari,
という方が創業者なんですけれども、
Satya
その方の時代
Bvlgari,
に作られた銀の作品が出
created
品されていまして、なかなかこれは
this piece dates from the founder's days, which you can hardly ever see. It's a very, very rare opportunity. Why were you so generous in allowing this to be shown? And could you explain the importance as well?
it was important not only to have pieces of the 20th century, but as Bulgari was born in 1884, to have pieces of the early years of Sotirio Bulgari, our founder. So this buckle is a large buckle, it's very large, is an impressive one, and it really reveals that the skills started with metal, silver, then gold, and are part of how the Maison made pieces. And for such retrospective, of course, represent contemporary creations, but also it was important, and I believe necessary, to have elements from the origins of the Maison. The last part of the exhibition is about how light crosses or passes through the gemstones. Some gemstones, light passes through completely. It enters in and goes out. They're called transparent. The diamonds are transparent. The sapphires, the emeralds, the precious stones are transparent mostly. So light perfectly passes through, reflect and refract light. On the extreme right, you can see opaque stone. It's the opposite. Light is blocked. So the color is intense, more dense, not refracted by light. In the middle, you have translucent stones. Translucency means that light comes inside, but then is lost in the gemstone. It's kind of trapped in. And so you have an intense reflection, which is different, particularly with this family of tourmaline, particularly the blue tourmaline called Lagoon Blue tourmaline, which is a recent kind of tourmaline from Brazil, the Paraíba tourmaline, which very much is one of the intense gemstones that we have, and explains that all the variety of gems are important on that level.
But now it's time to look at the individual pieces, particularly the heritage items, and that is where I'm going to hand it over to you.
On this third chapter, our challenge was to pick up 10 of the most important pieces. There are 345 jewels in the exhibition, so picking up the 10 favorites is always difficult, you can imagine. So we have selected some of them who have an importance in the exhibition because the space is important, because the nature of the piece, the color of the gem is important. And we're precisely starting with this one. It is in the yellow space. It really is at the beginning of the exhibition, and we believe that it makes the perfect link with all the explanation that Sejima-san and Nishizawa-san have explained on the ginkgo shape, on the inspiration from it. This necklace from 1993 is in yellow gold and diamonds. It has a large triple row of different elements on it, with particularly at the bottom some large spherical elements pending, which looks like stylized pine cones. And if you've been to Rome, Italy, Rome in particular, we have these large pine trees over there with large pine cones, which have been a huge inspiration for many, many elements in art, in Roman art. But in the middle of the same necklace and at the top, you can see the ginkgo stylized motif also, which is a pattern repeatedly used by the Maison for many, many decades, here and there, and that became a more recent collection also, called Diva's Dream. What's interesting is that positioning it in the center of the first ginkgo space, I would say, made a connection between the object and the scenography, the exhibition design in which the public will be.
And thank you. As you've just heard, this jewelry piece is in the yellow space in chapter 1, where you have the 3 primary colors. And it's right in the center of the yellow space. This photograph doesn't really bring it out, but the back of the setting also is really like the ginkgo leaf. You can see the structure, and I really would urge you to go and see it and look for it in the exhibition. So next.
And instead of Picamic 1, we just selected 3 of the pieces, but all about the shades of blue. There's not one blue, there are many blues, particularly just with sapphires, amazing stones. Probably the most important stone for Paolo Bvlgari, one of his favorites, the one who is third generation of the Bvlgari family, who in the 60s to the early 2000s really selected the most important gemstones. He was the eye of the gemologist, and he always selected gemstones that had a variety of blue that was intense, that was light, that was pure, that had something to tell. The one in the middle has a very sky blue color. I mean, at least the Roman sky, as we would say. So it has the beautiful weather kind of Rome, which has an intense blue. Whether the one on the right, the brooch, has probably a lighter blue. It's more delicate. And he really loved sapphires that were never too dark, because he considered that sapphire, and he knew that, sapphires gone very badly with electrical light. They got dark. So the better you would have a bit lighter the stone, the clearer it will be, even with artificial light, I would say. So you're going to ask, why on the left side you have a darker sapphire? And my answer is, it's a special order, this one. It was a piece that was a gift for the 40th birthday of Elizabeth Taylor. She was turning 40, and for her it was a hard time. With a jewel, she felt better. And this is why she had this amazing long necklace, sautoir, with this central sapphire, darker blue. Not blue. If you see any photo, render it badly, we need to see it in real. If you move around the sapphire at the bottom of the light, you will see some purple lights. Why purple? Because she had purple eyes. So she selected a stone that was matching with her eyes. How beautiful, no?
すごい美しい話をありがとうご
It's
ざい
really
ます。
beautiful to hear that. And this is the first corner. So the blues, the different sapphires, the delicate textures and the tones of the colors. You've just, I've got a question about that. They're all rounded in shape, not faceted. Is that also one of your house styles?
It is absolutely a signature of the maison. We call it cabochon cut. Cabochon comes from an old French word that means caboche, the head, because our red is round, of course. So it has this idea of not faceting, not cutting with open facets. So light hardly gets into, which helps the color to be deeper, to be more concentrated, I would say. The cabochon cut is something that exists since antiquity, so more than 2,000 years ago. But it has been more or less forgotten and preferred the faceted cut, I would say, mostly. But Bvlgari revived the stone as cabochon cut. They reused it whenever most of the other jewelers just said precious stones did not deserve the cabochon cut. They would have been preferred with other cuts. And Bvlgari said, we need volume, we need color intensity, we need density of it. And so they tried it since the 1930s for some of the first that we used. And then after the 40s, 50s, 60s, it really became something very recognizable of the Mediterranean Roman touch that Bvlgari wanted to do, not being flat, being in volume, like the hills of Rome, as some would say, and it really became something recognizable of Bvlgari.
ありがとうございます。すごく
Thank you.
もうブルガリの歴史がわかるご説明いただいて。
So we can really understand the history. 1938, 1960s. And you could get all the different periods, and you could get the sense of the history and the signature of how this created house style. So next.
This particular one is an example among several others. Miyajima-san just mentioned before that we have a better view of the ginkgo from the back. the concept of from the back was a very important point in the exhibition. Freestanding showcases will allow visitors to turn around, and we wanted all of them on purpose to have, for you, the ability to see something we do not see a lot in jewelry, how they're made, and to see how they're made, you need to look at the back. You see the craftsmanship part. You see the part that goldsmiths and gem setters will manipulate. Because we're used to seeing jewels from the front, of course, but from the back, you actually see how it's open in the back. So light comes from the back, reveals the color, the beauty of it. You can also see from the side, so you see the volume of the shapes, which is very important because as a jeweler, an Italian jeweler, a Roman high jeweler, we really are playing with volumes, playing with shapes. So this is something you can properly see, and this particular one has so many colors together. It's so important. We wanted it to be perceived and seen all around as many of the highlights of the exhibition.
はい、そうなんです。今ご説明
It's
くださったように、い
absolutely
くつかの
as you
ケー
have
スが
said. A number of the cases are visible from every single angle, completely in the round. And some of the jewelry can be seen from the front, the back, every single angle. And it's like miniature architecture, the jewelry pieces, which I think is really resonating with the exhibition design, with the scenography. And it sets up all these interactions. That's my personal take on it. Architecture and jewelry have become one, I think, in that. And I can really see that through this.
I fully appreciate this because we always say the construction of a jewel, which is an architectural word. So I believe the architecture, the big, and the jewels, the small, even not so small sometimes, could really work together in a great way. I would like to add one element on this particular necklace. This one has been made in 1968 for an American socialite, Lynn Refson, in New York. She enjoyed very much wearing the necklace and the earrings. She sold the pieces at Sotheby's at auction in 1995. And for the first time, it was not another collector who bought it. It was the Bvlgari family. This is one of the first jewels bought back, reacquisted by the Bvlgari family when we created what today we consider our museum, the Bvlgari Heritage Collection. And they bought this piece as one of the first because they understood and they thought this piece had everything of Bvlgari's signature, the cabochon cut, the colors, the marble, the architecture, construction, all these elements really, for them, talked, screamed Bvlgari, so they really wanted it to be part of the collection.
ありがとうございます。はい、じゃあ次をお願い。
Next,
I remember you were both talking, I think it was you, Tsujima-san, who talked about the orange in Italy that was important, and for a reason. Usually, our citrins, these are citrins. The citrin gemstone, the name comes from citrus, which means lemon. And we all know that lemon is not orange, it's yellow, right? They should be yellow. But at Bvlgari, we select them with an orangish color, a more intense color. And this is why I wanted to put a photo of a Roman sky, which is not a photoshopped photo. We have, particularly in October, we have some incredible sunsets. I remember when you visited me in Rome, we were talking about the sunset. We have some example of that. Colors can be incredible in Rome. The light in Rome is incredible. We have fabulous sunsets. And the orange that we have in here, saffron color, sometimes we say yellow-orange, is the one we have sometimes in the sky, which are amazing, and which everyone takes a photo of there, even me, even I know it very well. And the choice of that particular orangish color for the citrin is a choice that the Bvlgari family made because they really, really wanted to express the beauty of the fires in the sky. And this particular piece has its own independent room. And I really thank again the collaboration with the Sana duo on making spaces for highlights, understanding very much how some highlights needed to be surprisingly discovered and have their own atmosphere to be perfectly appreciated.
そうなんです。まさに
Absolutely.
展示室オレンジ色の
The gallery,
ですけれども、これから
it's
見る方は
orange.
すごくここ楽しみにご覧いただけたらと思います。
and you're going to have such a wonderful time when you see it. Next, please.
This particular one has also its own room, more neutral to really see the color, because it talks about such a revolution, which is putting colors together like no one ever did it before. We have the design. Anytime we wanted to give information on the craftsmanship, we have design, we have photos of the front, of the back, and other things. This piece has been designed in 1954 and made in 54, 55. It's, if you look at the photo, it looks like a ring. If you hit in real, it's a huge bracelet. It's a bangle, so it's a big piece. It has an enormous sapphire, 130 carats. It's a beautiful one, with, I always say it, bubbles of rubies on the side, and some diamonds cut in circular brilliant shape or rectangular baguette cut, so very geometrical shapes, which really put together is an aesthetic revolution of color that really matters at Bvlgari.
はい、ありがとうございます。この
Thank you.
赤と青を組み合わせる
This red and blue put together is really important. It's one of the traditions from the very early days of the Maison, am I right?
It is, absolutely. Since the 50s and then the 60s, the idea was putting together some of the stones that usually were not in, let's say, high jewelry tradition done. Traditionally, particularly in France, but also in the UK or in America, the idea was to have one color plus diamond, but two very intense color was too much. Bvlgari said, we're Italian, we don't care. Let's do something different. And they were right of doing so. They put them together, and that was the revolution they did, more or less. But they put some white in between the blue and the red to create some contrast and helping some of the in-between space. Also, you can see it, we need to add one more color, which is yellow. It's yellow gold. And I believe this is something also we can see with the structure of what is supporting the jewels in the showcases. It is that you see the inside of the jewels. You see these kind of stylized curves made in yellow, which really is part of the beauty, even on something which normally is not visible because it's touching the wrist, obviously. But it's part of what is made in high jewelry in the best way.
ありがとう。
This particular one, it's something we really wanted to have in the exhibition. Floral jewelry has been important in the 50s, but then more stylized in the 60s, the 61s. This is one of the last of these very asymmetrical flowers. But this particular one has an amazing craftsmanship, which we would love to make them move in front of you. When we were in Rome, we did this on the hands, but we cannot do this with all the public. So we did a video, which is in the exhibition, which I just clicked. And they are mounted on a spring, so they're trembling, in French, tremblant. And this is why we use this word. They're moving. They'll be moving on the lapel when people put the brooch on, and they will catch more light, create color effects, which for me is an ultimate level of craftsmanship, to play with light and color.
そうなんです。で、一つ
It is so much so trembling.
この技法っていうのは
This trembling,
伝統というか
it's a very traditional, historic skill, I suppose.
トランブラン自体は昔から
It's a historic technique, or is it something new?
It is a historical technique from the 17th century, in fact. So it's an old technique that was very much appreciated in Baroque ages. So Barocco is a style in Italy, particularly in Rome, which is important to create spectacular effect and surprising, unusual elements, which really was lost for over 200 years and revived by Bvlgari. They found a series of beautiful gemstones and they wanted to make floral designs. And they had an idea and they tried. It actually had a big success from 1955 more or less to 1962 or 3. This is one of the great pieces which is in the exhibition. If you love emeralds, if you love green, this one is fabulous. This piece is called the Seven Wonders. Well, it's the nickname we gave it because it has 7 of the most magnificent emerald ever used by Bvlgari. Intense, deep, bright, powerful. These emeralds are mounted with beautiful diamonds all around. It was made in 1961. We worked with our lab in the early 60s. And initially, if you look at the design on the left, if you count the number of emeralds on the left, you can count 9 emeralds instead of 7 for the final piece. So you may ask me, but what happened? Well, it happened that the person who wanted the emerald necklace finally changed her mind. She wanted also to have earrings. So we took off the 2 opposite emeralds and we made earrings instead. So you see, that's the life of the jewels, from the project to the reality. The owner of the piece was not this lady on the right. This lady was Monica Vitti, a famous Italian actress. She wore the necklace for a photo shooting for Vogue Italy. But she was not she wore it just for an occasion. She was not the owner of the piece. This piece remained in the collection of an Italian family, and it remained in that collection since last Christmas. Last Christmas, the family came to us and said, well, we accept that you can purchase it for the Heritage Collection. So now it is part of our museum, and we're very proud to display it as part of our collection because it's a masterpiece in the history of Bvlgari.
That history and the background, I mean, it's a miracle that you're able to have this for this exhibition. And you really brought it home to me. Thank you.
It is. In fact, 10 years ago, we did an exhibition in the National Museum in Ueno. And this piece was on display, and it was written private collection at the time. But it was very rarely displayed in the next years. So it's a big return, and very happy and proud that it is here in Japan. There's one room, if you visited the exhibition, I hope you enjoyed the space, the room, darker room with large showcase, 18 snakes. It's in the room about emotions, but don't be afraid, it's not about fear. It's nothing to be scary. Our snakes are positive, kind of talismans, they're protective snakes, like the ancient Roman would consider the snakes. Every single snake, and there are 18 of them, are all different. Every color. You have a human. Look at all of these. You can have yellow and black. You can have some gold and green. You have black and red. You have the harlequin with more colors with red, green, white, black. The shape of the eyes can be different. The gemstone in the eyes can be different. I mean, this is our icon, and we made them with stones, with enameling, and they really reflect the importance of the pieces in the collection.
Thank you. And out of all the serpenti, you've just shown to us this round case and the 18 serpents circle this, and in fact, the serpent is a watch. But they all have their mouths closed, so you can't see the watch face. We agonized over this, but for the 18, we decided that they should have their mouths closed. But knowing that there's a watch face inside there is outstanding skill, isn't it? And again, I'm running out of time.
Then we have one space with a large showcase about the colors of gold. We've been talking a lot about yellow gold, which is very sunny, very important for Bvlgari, but also the mixing of color is important. White gold, yellow gold, rose gold, or pink, as we say. They're put together on jewels, they're put together on watches, but also on accessories, precious bags, precious pouches, vanity cases, objects that were made by goldsmith properly. The one you see closer on the right is one of the many bags that were made in the 70s called melone. It means melon in Italian because it has a melon shape, the Italian melon, large, like oval. And they have a tassel in textile, in silk. But this particular one, of course, is the only one having a snake on it. It has a beautiful color group in it because you have white gold, you have red gold, and you have another green gold. There's a design next to it, and it is written sea water, in Italian acqua di mare, and it really reflects the idea that there are a series of other colors of gold that were able to be done, and that even when you don't have gemstones, color could also be important just by the workmanship of the gold.
ね、このゴールド
The gold, using so many different tones of gold, is also one of the characteristics of your house. Is that right?
Absolutely. Since the late 30s, early 40s, it has been the idea of combining the different metals to create color contrast also. As you said, Sotirio was a silversmith and a goldsmith, so working with gold, working with the colors has been also in his tradition. And I truly believe that it has passed on to the several generations afterwards. Absolutely. This particular one, the evening bag with the snake, is presented open, so you can see a bit of the bag, but it's mostly in the front, when you can see all the details of the colors of gold on it. And then, last but not least, this is the final piece of the exhibition. This is a photo when you see the reflection also of the piece, because you have understood with the exhibition design, with the topic, it's about reflections, it's about light, thinking about light, playing with light also. This particular one is the poster of the exhibition, one of the covers of the catalogue, and an amazing piece. It's closing the exhibition because it really is a kaleidoscope of color. It's a long necklace, a sautoir, made in 1969 with a central amethyst covered with covered with other emeralds, rubies, turquoise, amethysts, citrines, so lots of other gems, diamonds of course, on yellow gold, inviting people to turn around. With this piece, we have not only a precious gem object, but also crafts object, because you can take off the elements of the necklace to becoming 3 bracelets, or you can wear the necklace long, medium size, short. So it's a huge craftsmanship to be able to properly work on these elements, transforms these elements, and we wanted it to be like that. In this particular exhibition, we wanted it to be something specific, and that was the conclusion we wanted to do.
そうです。まさにこれが
So this is the conclusion of the exhibition, the final piece in the exhibition.
ありがとうございました。でも本当にその美術館で一番お客様にというか来場者の方に
For a museum, what you really want to happen is to have a spontaneous experience for the audience. How do we make that possible? How do we make it possible for people to be able to do that? That's always what we think about. And I think your words, your comments have really been possible thanks to your exhibition space. Your design, Sana, has made it all possible. And I think it is now time to end. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining us.